5 of the worst muscle building exercises that you probably want to avoid. What's up guys, Matt Dashu here from Blue Star Nutraceuticals here at the Blue Star Nutraceuticals training facility. And today I want to go over 5 muscle building exercises that aren't so great at muscle building, so you should probably avoid them. Now, the name of the game here is getting jacked, and we want to do that as quickly and as safely as possible. And not that these exercises are all horrible or super bad. Let's be honest, they can be used at the right time, the right goal. But if our goal is to put on mass as quickly as possible, these are going to be things that are just time wasters for you. Let's get into the first exercise. I'm going to walk right over here and get into wrist curls. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I used to love this exercise when I was about 14. And the reason why I loved it was because I thought that arm wrestling was super cool back then and made me more likely to get dates. But in all honesty, it never made me more likely to get dates. And all it really did was give me elbow problems in the long run. Again, this isn't a horrible exercise, all things considered, but if I'm looking to get jacked, there are better alternatives. I can sit here and do 40, 50 reps per set, or I can make sure I'm working my grip by doing things like farmer's walks, by doing things like heavy pull-ups, heavy chin-ups, heavy rows, heavy deadlifts. All of these movements, if I am gripping the bar as hard as I can, are gonna give me more bang for my buck than a wrist curl will at the end of the day. Another thing that you can use too is fat grips. So I don't know if you guys have seen these before, but essentially they will fit over top of the bar. And then that way, when you're doing your curls or your rows, you can work your grips at different angles. Lastly, another thing that you can do too is to do things like timed hangs or towel pull-ups, things with towels, something where you basically have to be forced to squeeze harder, okay? And we don't want to spend hours and hours and hours in the gym without getting a ton of return for the time we're putting in. So wrist curls, let's just scratch that one off the list, and then let's head to number 2. All right guys, number 2 on our list today of the most horrible muscle building exercises that you really don't want to waste your time on is Smith machine squats. Follow me over to the Smith machine and let's go have a look at these. Okay, well, you know, there is no Smith machine here because Smith machine squats suck. Now, all jokes aside, because I probably pissed some people off there, the Smith machine is a great piece of equipment. We actually don't have one here, and it's not because it sucks. It just so happened that it worked out today that we didn't have one at our training facility. There's a number of reasons why I don't like Smith machine squats. For one, it's gonna be one of those exercises that are going to allow you to kind of take the easy way out. Barbell squats are always going to allow you to get a better range of motion, a more natural bar path. They're gonna allow you to lift more weight, and you'd be less likely to hurt yourself because you're not gonna potentially get crushed underneath the weight, okay? So as far as muscle building exercises go, Smith machine squats are just not gonna be one of those beneficial ones that you wanna do. And let's be honest, barbell squats look much cooler than Smith machine squats too. Now, in case you're wondering what a Smith machine is, and again, since we don't have one here, you may have never used one before, but they're gonna look a lot like this, in all honesty. It basically looks like a squat rack, but essentially the path of the bar is going to be guided. So it's grooved, and the bar is gonna have little hooks on it so that you can rack or re-rack or unrack at any point in the lift that you want. But essentially it's a stabilized version of a barbell movement that forces you into a mold that's gonna be straight up and down for the most part. So, hate to say it guys, great piece of machinery. Unfortunately, we don't have one here, which is probably for the best. If I tried to do a couple reps for you, it would look super ugly. That's where we're at. On to exercise number 3. Okay. So exercise number 3 is leg extensions. Now, I know I'm gonna upset a lot of people with this one too, and that's totally okay because I do think that there's a time and place for all exercises, and I would include leg extensions in that, but I do have a bone to pick with leg extensions being a fantastic way to develop muscle quickly, okay? One of the main reasons why here is that when I'm doing this exercise, for one, if I don't have my seat lined up properly, if I've got any pre-existing knee pain, if I load this too heavily, all I'm gonna do is injure the joint or cause problems on that patellar tendon. One of the things I see a lot of times people doing is really cranking through these fast reps. They're changing the position of their toes. They're doing super heavy weights, and really they're just really cranking down on that tendon. And again, if you're injured, you can't continue to get big and strong. A lot of times, I think one of the best ways to really just work your way around it is to stick to your bigger compound movements. But I will add a little bit of an aside for this. So I do like leg extensions as long as there is no pre-existing knee pain or patellar pain. I like it as long as you've set yourself up properly. So one of the things I see people doing wrong is they'll set themselves up so that their knee is hanging way over the edge. edge. And then there's gonna be a lot more torque on that knee as I'm doing the leg extension. Like that actually hurts my knee right there. And it's not even that it's a lot of heavy weight, it's just that I've put that much more leverage against that knee joint because I'm not setting myself up properly on here. And then the other thing is that playing with your toe position can cause problems for some people. You're not gonna get a ton of bang for your buck by changing your toe position of these at the end of the day. The other thing I would say is that if you're going to do these, as long as you've got no pre-existing knee pain, you've got the setup right here, don't use this exercise as a strength building exercise. Use it in either a pre-exhaust or a post-exhaust format. So what do I mean by that? Is let's say I was going to do squats or I was going to do lunges and I want to get more bang for my buck for quads. I might do a very low weight on here and I might go high reps. So say 15 to 20 reps. As long as you stay to lighter weights, higher rep ranges, this can be a good exercise. But if you start cranking out heavy stuff, if you have pre-existing knee pains, and if you're not setting yourself up on this properly, I would not do this exercise and just stick to some of the larger, more natural movement patterns like a squat, like a lunge, like reverse lunges. Stick to those and stay away from this unless you know what you're doing, unless you don't have pre-existing knee pain. All right guys, exercise number 4 of the worst muscle building exercises that you can do that you should probably try to avoid is pull downs. Just kidding, it's behind the neck pull downs. Now, again, I know I'd probably get roasted by some people for this, and that's okay, because with all of these exercises, there's always a time and place, and I truly believe that not necessarily every exercise is bad, even the bad exercises. It depends on person to person, who's doing it, how they're doing it, what weight they're doing it with, what their body structure looks like, so on and so forth. So one of the reasons why I really don't like this exercise for most people is, for one, most people don't have enough shoulder mobility to do this without potentially putting themselves into hazardous positions. It's almost like doing a behind the neck overhead press. If you don't have enough shoulder mobility to get your shoulder blades rotated all the way down and to open up that shoulder joint, then essentially what you're gonna be doing is cranking on your rotator cuff tissues. You're gonna be grinding away at them, and eventually you're probably gonna tear something. It's a very similar kind of idea here. So I'm gonna go light here just so I don't potentially hurt myself. I'm like the mom of personal training. I always wanna make sure I don't get hurt. But one of the big things here that I see people doing is they crank this weight down really hard and they drive their head forward. They're cranking the weight down, driving their head forward. Cranking the weight down, driving their head forward. It's really just not a natural movement. It's not a great position to be putting your shoulder in, because as I'm coming forward like this, as I'm trying to pull this weight down, again, if I don't have my shoulder blade all the way in that down and back position, I'm gonna be grinding away at bicep tendons, supraspinatus tendons, all sorts of stuff here. One of the better things that you can do here really is just to do it in front, just to do it in front of your chest. You can use close grip handles, you can use neutral grip handles. I'm really a big fan actually of the neutral grip pull down as well, because that kind of allows me to get really close and have a similar hand position. Instead of worrying about pulling this behind the neck, the other thing you can do that I see a lot of people never doing with pull downs is really just making sure the top of the rep you're leaning forward so you get a nice good stretch with those lats. So instead of kind of like cranking myself down like this, I can stay in tight for most of the rep, and I'm gonna move just out of the way at the last second. This is just gonna be a much better way to build muscle while limiting the risk that that type of exercise is gonna put at you. And again, the name of the game here, guys, is getting big as fast as you can. And if you're gonna hurt yourself along the way, then you're just gonna slow down your progress. Maybe not a horrible exercise for most people, it's just not a great exercise, and there's better things to do. All right, so that's number 4. Let's head over to number 5. All right, guys. As you may have guessed it, exercise number 5 today of the worst muscle building exercises that you probably want to avoid is upright row. Now again, disclaimer real quick before I get hate mail and death threats and all this fun stuff. I don't necessarily think this is a horrible exercise in general. I just don't think it's an ideal exercise for most people to use to be building mass quickly and efficiently. There's a couple main reasons. So depending on the shoulder structure, and this can be more of a genetic thing and in terms of how the shoulder bones grow out on you, your shoulder may be formed so that the little bone that sticks out here that comes over just sticks out farther on you than it does for most people. I'm one of those people. And this exercise for me has never been good. It's always caused me shoulder pain, it causes me elbow pain. I've just never found it beneficial. I've seen other people love this exercise, get tons of benefit from it. But as a general rule, my experience personally and my experience with most of my clients has been that it's not a great exercise for them and it's not an efficient muscle builder. If I had to switch this out with something else, obviously I'm always gonna pick overhead presses. Obviously I'm gonna pick all sorts of different lateral raises, but we can do modifications of this exercise too. I have found that if I'm going to do some type of upright row, I prefer to do it more of a high pull style. And what I mean by that is instead of keeping my hands in really close and really cranking it up super high, I'll set myself up a little bit more as though I'm doing a hang clean or an Olympic lift. So my hands are gonna be out a little bit wider instead of close. And I'm going to use my hips a little bit just to get a little bit of momentum, but then I'm going to make sure that I manage my range of motion. I'm not going to pull this bar way up super high, like that hurts me right there. I'm gonna pull the bar up to about here, and I'm not gonna start externally rotating. Like that motion right there for me hurts. If I go with my hands a little bit wider and pull up to about mid-sternum, then I'm okay. If I go up any higher than that, that causes me a lot of pain. Another thing that can be a game changer for this exercise, if you want to chance it, is to do it with a rope attachment on the cable machine. And again, that just allows there to be a little bit more play with the bones of the arms so that you're less likely to pinch something in the shoulder. This guy does not make it on my list of great exercises. It definitely makes it on my list of shitty exercises. So I'm gonna avoid this one personally at pretty much all costs. Up to you guys if you want to use it, but I suggest you do something a little bit more like overhead presses and different variations of side raises, front raises, rear raises to build the shoulders. And just stay away from this one to make sure your shoulders stay healthy. There you have it, guys. 5 of the worst muscle building exercises that you might be doing that you don't have to do anymore. And that's all for today's video. Until next time, stay strong.